Okay, so I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, have all experienced a point in our lives when we have technically failed, and we tend not to want to look at it or acknowledge that it happened because we find it embarrassing. And that's why I agree with this quote: "I'm not afraid to die, I just don't want to be there when it happens," by Allen. I agree with this quote because I feel like this happens in multiple parts in our everyday life. So whether it be in school or at an interview, or even it could be for a crush you have or something. And for one example, I would go back to school. I would say any moment we had a presentation or anything we had to stand in front of class like this, we all might tell ourselves we're not afraid to fail. But then of course once we get up here and the nerves start to kick in, then we all kind of get a little shaky and nervous, and even though it might not bother us, but we tend not to want to look at it on the video or not, because like the quote says, we might not be afraid to fail, but we don't want to be there to witness it. And another example I could give is for an interview, and because when you give an interview, that's like one of the most nerve-wracking things ever, especially for your first job. And so when you go for your interview, you then giving a presentation in class, you start to get the shakes and all the symptoms of being nervous start to kick in. And so you tend, like, even though you feel like you do a good job in the interview, or maybe you don't, you still, if it was recorded, I feel like you would not want to look back on it because we all tend to critique ourselves, even if there wasn't a problem, we all tend to, even though the slightest things we pick, and so we tend not to want to look at our failures, first thing. And one more example is, like I said, if you have a crush on someone. It's probably most likely in like school, whether it be high school or maybe even elementary, or even college. And if you have a crush, you tell yourself you're going to be confident and you're not going to fail, or you don't. If she or he says no, that's not going to bother you. It says, there's plenty of fish in the sea, per se. And then so once you go and if you talk to your crush or not, the same thing with regards to the presentation. If it was recorded, or you don't want to look back on it because you feel like you look like an idiot because of how nervous and scared you might seem. And then, so like the quote says, you don't want to watch your failures. So in conclusion, there are multiple times in our lives, like I said, whether it be school, talk to a crush, or even a job interview, that you would not necessarily afraid to fail, but you would probably choose otherwise of watching yourself because you don't want to, like the quote says, you don't want to be there to watch your failures.
I couldn't say it that way because you never told me about it.
All right, well, the kind of shared experience and the transition to the topic was okay. I think you have a very clear statement of what the preview is and the structure is easy to follow. You've got nice examples on each of the points. There's a little bit of detail on each one. The first one, of course, probably works pretty well for everybody in here under the circumstances, so I think people can relate to that nicely. And like I said, the other two also are clear. You signposted them at the beginning. You followed that structure clearly, so you're doing a good job on all the mechanics there. Presentation issues, you have a pretty good variety in your voice while you're speaking to us in the range that you have. I think that you project reasonably for the size of the audience that we're talking to here. I do think sometimes there are some minor hesitations, not big. There's not any particular vocalized pause that you hang on, but occasionally there is a moment or two where it feels like it's flowing a little bit less smoothly than it could. Nothing that was problematic, just something to maybe kind of think about and work on a little bit. Your facial expressions, I think, might be a little bit broader. Remember, you're talking to an audience, and so you want to engage them. You may have to, I don't want to say, overdo it. You don't want to clown it up, but you do need to kind of be a little bit more ambitious in maybe some of those facial expressions. But I thought that, for instance, your eye contact was excellent. You're looking at people for the most part. You're distributing it pretty well. Your posture is solid. You look confident while you're standing there talking to us. And I thought your conclusion was pretty solid, except for right at the end, we got that vocal drop off. That was the one thing that I thought was maybe an indication of nervousness. Everything else you did a good job on. Okay, thank you.